All right, this video is talking a little bit about new quizzes in Canvas. So if you're creating a quiz in Canvas, don't forget the difference between a quiz and an assignment isn't in how it's graded, it's in how it's set up. Quizzes will allow you to create multiple questions that the students have to progress through. You can use this for a quiz, for a test, or just for a regular classroom assignment, anything that you want to break up the number of questions that they go through. Super versatile, super amazing, lots of functions to work with here. The way we create one is here I've come to the quizzes page in the navigation in Canvas. Here are quizzes that have already been previously created. If I'm going to create a new one, I'm going to come over here and hit plus quiz. Now this is going to be some options that you may or may not see. This is kind of an older quiz. New quizzes is the function that you want to use. Classic quizzes is the old quiz engine that Canvas was using before, but it is being phased out. They're going to stop supporting it. So classic quizzes is a lot simpler. It's not as customizable. It doesn't have as many features. It's also really limited, and you're not going to have access to it for much longer. So I would select new quizzes. And if this is the first time you're seeing it, hit remember my choice. That way, every time you go back to create a quiz, it will automatically create one in new quizzes, something that will stay available to you and has lots of different question types. If I was going to go ahead and hit submit, then it's going to create a new quiz, excuse me, that you can start working forward. I'm going to show you one that I've already kind of created. We'll work through it, show you how it works. You can give the quiz a name. If you want this quiz's grade to automatically go into PowerSchool, into your gradebook, you'll want to give it a name that's less than 30 characters, but for right now, we're just calling it test quiz. How many points do you want this quiz to be worth? This is where it's really, really exciting. If you want this to be just a regular classroom assignment, maybe you have 10 questions for them after they watched a movie or a video, then you can make this worth 5 points, you can make this worth 100 points. It's up to you how many points you want the quiz to be worth. What's really exciting is that the amount of points the quiz is worth does not have to match the number of points of questions inside the quiz. So say I wanted to create a 5-point assignment, or maybe I want to create a 50-point assignment. I can put one question on the inside worth 10 points and it will scale that grade. Most often, I will have like a small classroom assignment that's worth 5 points. Like I have a daily warm up in my class that I use quizzes to create because I want multiple questions, whether it's like a daily grammar or something like that. I have very small point assignments so that the assignment isn't a huge impact on their grade, but I can put 10 questions on the inside. So if they miss 5 of those 10 questions, then they will only get 2.5 out of 5 points. It converts for you. I really, really like this as a formative assessment tool. So I can create small value, small point worth assignments, but I can create as many questions and as many points as I want inside, but it won't have a huge impact on their grade because the assignment as a whole is only worth 5 points. I really, really like that feature. I can also decide what category I want this assignment to go into. Like I said, if you have grade categories set up in Canvas, if you have groups set up on the assignment page, I can make this a regular classwork assignment. I can make this a test, a quiz. I can make a whole new group, maybe for warm-ups or something like that. It's up to you. But I like that you can sort what category you want them to go into. Quizzes don't have to just be quizzes. They can be assignments, they can be tests, they can be projects. It's up to you. You can display the grade as all kinds of different things. I tend to use points in my classroom, so I like the points. You can just do a complete, incomplete. You can grade in percentages, letters, GPA scales. I keep it set at points just because that's me. You can also have something that doesn't count toward the final grade. For example, if you want to do something like a pretest where they can see the score they got, but it doesn't affect their overall grades. Maybe you want them to see like, okay, here's a pretest that we took at the beginning of the year. You made a 75 on it. You can see the 75, you can see the results, you can know the score that you got, but that 75 doesn't affect your grades. It's just there for information, and then we try to improve on that as we go. For submission type, new quizzes, it's kind of its own submission, so just ignore this box right here. This is a box you can click if you want this grade to go into PowerSchool. If you have it set up, and that's another video, another page later, how to sync the grades between Canvas and PowerSchool. It's really easy. All you have to do later is click a button, and it automatically takes all the student scores and puts them in PowerSchool for you. So you don't have to worry about retyping, messing one up, missing one, getting two students switched. The computer does it all for you. Super easy. Leave that clicked if that's something you want. Also, assigning access. This is really, really good, especially for like differentiation or if you want to give the same test to multiple classes. When I manage who I'm assigning this to, I can assign it to everyone. I can assign for particular students. So maybe I gave out an article in class and I gave out 3 different articles. I want to assign this particular quiz to everyone who read article A. I can type their names in here. Or I can assign this quiz to just my first period. I can assign this section here. I can give them a due date. I can set a particular time when things are due, so maybe like the end of the class period. I can also set when they're able to see it for the first time. Maybe you don't want them to be able to open it until class starts, so you don't want them like doing the assignment or opening the test during a free period later in the day. You can lock it so that they can only access from a particular time until a certain time. It's very manageable who can access it, when and where. You can also add, so if you want multiple groups, maybe you want first period to only be able to get it during first period and second period to only see it during second period. This is also really good for differentiation if you want to have maybe first period is a little bit lower level class. You want to give them 2 days to work on this assignment, whereas first period or the next period, you only want them to have 1 day to work on it. You can customize this however you want to. It's really good for assigning to particular students at particular times. I'm going to unclick that just for now. Down here, you've got a couple of options. Save will just let you save your progress. You can keep working on it later. The students still won't see it until you hit publish. Once you hit save and publish, then students are able to access the assignment. For right now, we're just going to build. Now, New Canvas is really good because it has several different question options. You can get all kinds of different types of questions. I've gone through and put in at least one question of all the different question types just so you can see how it works. You can also come in here and type instructions for the test, maybe tell them like, hey, don't worry, have a great day. You can put in a word bank if it's a vocabulary test, or if it's any kind of something like that, you can put in a passage. You can give them instructions on whether they're allowed to use a calculator or not. Whatever you want to put in the instructions, that's up to you. The first type of question, whenever you see these little blue pluses, this is time to add a question, add content. So you have all these different question types. Also, if you have any questions saved in like a question bank, maybe you've been making questions for a long time, you got a whole bank of questions you can draw from there. Or if you're creating questions from scratch, these are the different types of questions that you can use. And anytime you see these little plus, you can just insert in the middle of the test. So the first one we're going to look at is a categorization question. Away from here. So for here, I've created a question that says, sort the following words to the appropriate part of speech. Let's edit this question a little bit. Oops, clicked out of it. All right, so I'm able to put a question title. Maybe for this one, it's like chapter 1. I don't know, the kids won't see the question titles. Only you will see that. What they will see is sort the following words to the appropriate parts of speech. This is where you can type out the question. They'll have a variety of categories. I added the name of the category here to nouns, and this one is verbs. I typed in a couple of nouns. I can add a new one here. Let's say flower. And over here for verbs, I've typed in a couple. I can add more if I want to. I don't have to. I can leave uneven numbers. They don't have to match. I can also type in distractors. So these are a couple of words that are not nouns or verbs that will not go into those categories. I want to make sure the kids know the difference. They're not just randomly selecting. You can add as many distractors as you want, as many questions or matching answers as you like. You can also come down here and bank this question for later. You can change the number of points. And one thing that I really love is for each question, you can add feedback for the students. So once you click here, you can type a message here that they will only see if they get the answer correct. You can type a different question if they see the answer, if they type the answer incorrectly. And you can also give general feedback that every student will see regardless of what they answered. You don't have to put this on every question, but the option is there on every question. So you can leave feedback tailored specifically to that question. If it's a really hard one and you know the kids are going to get it wrong, you can put feedback there. You can also change the number of points. The more matching things I have up here, the more points I tend to add. I will say that Canvas does not give partial credit for these types of questions, for categorization questions. If you want the students to get partial credit, maybe they accidentally put car over here in the verb category, you do have to go back and do that manually. It's really annoying, but if you want there to be partial credit, I generally tend to. I'll go back and I'll make like a person by person judgment. I'll be like, okay, you got most of these right. Let me do a count. But the automatic grader itself, it does not give partial credit for these particular types of questions. So do keep that in mind. The next type of question that is up to you is an essay question. For this one, you can, hold on. You can type and create whatever you want here. Just like all of the editing functions, you have the option to embed photos, images, music, content. You can put stuff from your Google Drive, whatever you want, into the question itself. But when the students are answering it, they will have just a text box where they can type their answer. You can change the number of points. Again, you can add feedback. Essay question, pretty self-explanatory. You can also have the students upload a file, and you can limit file types. So maybe I want to have them upload a lab report that they did earlier. I can type in the question here. I can limit the number of files here. I'm telling them they can only send me 2 files. They can't send me everything in their drive. I can also restrict file types if I want to. Maybe I only want PDFs, or I only want document files, whatever it happens to be. Maybe if it's images, I can put a JPEG or a PNG or whatever the other endings are. You can limit this as much as you want, and you can have them submit however many files that you want. Very customizable. Also, for the next type is fill in the blank answer. I do this one a lot for like vocabulary questions. Keep clicking away. So I have school starts in, and I want them to fill in the word August. I put in the little back ticks around August, little kind of backward apostrophes. The ticks around the word that I want them to fill in, and it creates a fill in the blank box for them. I also have options for this. Do I want them to type exactly August with capitals included? Or if the regular vocab word is something more simple like corrode, and corrode, I don't care if they get it right uppercase or lowercase, sometimes capitalization is hard for them, then I can just click close enough and spelling only. That way, capital, uppercase, lowercase, it won't matter. It will give them credit for both. You can change this around, all kinds of options, however you like. You can also create a drop down if you want to create a couple of different options, kind of like a little mini multiple choice within the case. You can create a word bank. It's really good. There's a lot of different functions that you can create. Right, so there's lots of different options here that you can create when you're working with fill in the blank. I prefer the open entry just to let the kids actually type things in. All right, the next type of question we're going to work with is a formula question. And this one was a little bit challenging for me because I am not much of a math and science person, but you can create formula-based questions and it will generate different questions for all the students. It will generate a different question each time you access the test. So for example, here I created a question, what is the area of a rectangle that is X inches long and Y inches wide? If I put the little back ticks around my variables, then I can create variables here. Do I want, let's make that a 10, a minimum of 1, maximum of 10, minimum of 10, maximum of 100. However many decimals do I want involved? I can create these variables along with the formula that I created up here, the question that I created up here. I give the formula that will give the answer to the question. So I'm looking for area, I'm looking for length times width. So I have X times Y, those are my variables. And I want it to generate 10 solutions with 2 decimal places. They can give margins of errors, all that kind of thing. It will generate for me, here are all the different kind of variables that it might pop into the question, and here are the results that the student would need to find. So it will create lots of questions kind of for you, which is nice. So when I hit done on that question, now it's created a number for me, 3.42 inches long, 94.25 inches wide, and the student would have to type in 322.34. Student would enter this number all on their own. It's kind of a neat option if you want to create lots of different questions that use the same formula to continue in practice, kind of thing. This is another question format that I really like. It's called Hotspot. I upload upload an image. This one is a image of the heart, and I might say click on the left ventricle. This is where students have to move their mouse and actually click on the thing that I'm describing. I've created this polygon here, which means that I clicked and I drag, and I'm creating the correct zone here. They have got to click within this zone to get the answer correct. If they click anywhere else, there we go. If they click over here somewhere, they're not going to get the point. They have to be within the target area I just drew to get the points for this assignment. I can use squares, I can use circles, I can create my own shape, polygon. But they see this image, they see the question, click on the left ventricle, and they have to click somewhere within this target zone if they want the points for the question. It's really nice. I use it for things like maps, or if you have anatomy diagrams, you could say, click on the numerator, click on the denominator, I don't know whatever math terms are. Anything that you want to upload the photo, have them click. Only problem with this one is that you can't say, okay, now click on the right ventricle. You have to re-upload the image. You have to do this again for every question, but it goes really quick, especially if you just go in and hit duplicate. That way, this button means copy. You can duplicate the question and then just move the target area, change the name, so it can go pretty quickly. There's also matching questions, pretty standard. You type in your thing here, match the character to the description. Here's some descriptions, characters from the Moana movie, and they can match back and forth. Again, I can put in distractors, so characters here who will show up in the drop-down who were not described here, just to make sure you know who is who. You can add distractors if you want, you don't have to. You can also, this one will do partial credit. So depending on how many points you assign, depending on how many questions they get correct, Canvas will calculate, how many points out of that are you getting? Which is much nicer than having to calculate it manually. There's also multiple answer questions, which is like multiple choice, but you have multiple correct answers. So here I've got, which of the following are traditionally considered breakfast foods? Select all that apply. You want to especially mention that to students, otherwise they'll think it's multiple choice and they only have to click one. Here I can click more than one correct answer. Eggs and bacon out of hamburgers and pizza. This one will also give partial credit, and it will also do a penalty. So if they click hamburgers as well, then they don't just get that free point. It will dock them a little bit for clicking an incorrect answer. Let's see, for multiple choice, I think we all kind of know how multiple choice works. Click your answer title, put your answer choices here. It is really nice that you can add feedback for each individual answer choice as well. You can add feedback for anyone who picks bowling versus baseball, and you can also add feedback here at the end of the whole question. So there's lots of different feedback options that you can choose. You can have the answer choices shuffle. So if you want the choices to shuffle just within this single question, maybe you typed A for all of your answers and you want it to shuffle so that it's not A on every question, you can click shuffle here and it will only shuffle this question. It won't shuffle the rest of the quiz, which is kind of nice if you want to mix it up a little bit for particular questions. Let's see, you've also got numeric choices. So what year was the Declaration of Independence signed? This will probably work better with a math question because it does put commas in there for you. I've said I want the exact response, 1776. You can also give a range. If you want to say like, what year was the war? Or anything that requires a range like that, you can add all kinds of options, or if I have an exact response and I want the kids to say 1776, that is what will pop up. For the next question is ordering. So the kids will drag and drop any of the answer choices you create. If I'm doing the stages of mitosis, cell division, I label this one here beginning, I label this one to the end, I put in all the different phases, and I tell them I want you to put these in order. So the kids will drag and drop until things are in the order that they like, and there is not, you don't get partial credit for this one. So do keep this one in mind. It will look like this. They'll drag and drop it. You also have true-false questions. I think we all know how true or false questions work. Obviously, you type in a phrase, you hit true or false. Very standard. This is the kind of question that I am particularly like. It can work really well for just about any different subject, and this is called a stimulus. Stimulus is not a type of question, but rather it is a prompt for questions. It will split the screen, so I can add images, I can add text, I can add any kind of prompt or passage over here. I give it a title, I can give it instructions. Here I've added a screenshot of an ACT practice passage. I can say what side do I want the questions on, to the right or below. And it lets me put material on one side of the screen and I can attach questions to that material on the other side. So I can put maybe like 3 passages and I can attach particular questions to that passage. So even if I have the format set to only see one question at a time, they will always stay attached to the material, to the stimulus that they are connected to. It's really, really handy, especially with long passages where they're not sure which questions go with which passage. They are attached specifically to this one. And you have the full range of questions that you do on the regular test. You can add anything that you want, attach any question type to a stimulus. So whether you have a set of instructions, whether you have a map or a passage or whatever it is, you can attach any kind of question you want and it stays connected to that particular passage. This is called stimulus, and it works really, really well. The only thing you got to keep in mind is that the Chromebook screens are fairly small, so you do want to make your passages as big as possible, and do keep in mind that a lot of times you will be walking around the room and you'll see students zoomed in on this particular image. They can expand it on their Chromebook so that they can see it bigger if they need to. So don't freak out if you see them doing something sketchy on the screen. If it's expanded, then they're trying to see the passage a little bit better on a small Chromebook screen. Again, you see these little pluses are between each question. I can insert a question between these two, whatever kind I want. I can also use this button here to drag the question types up and down. I can duplicate a question with the little plus in the box. I can edit that particular question. I can add as many as I want. Again, so there are 13 questions in this assignment. Each of them was worth 1 point. So within the assignment are 13 points worth of questions. But if you remember, the whole assignment itself was only worth 5 points. So whatever they get out of 13, if they get the 6 out of 13, that'll come out to approximately 2.5 out of 5. Gradebook will convert it for you. It's really nice. Let's take a look at some of the settings that you can see here. Some of these question settings, these all apply to the test as a whole. I know you could shuffle questions specifically within one question on the test. This little toggle will shuffle all the questions on the entire test for you, so it will move them in whatever order. Maybe you get the stimulus and its questions first, and then the formula, and then the multiple choice, and then the fill in the blank. It will shuffle all of the questions around in the test. So if you want your questions to come in a specific order, maybe this is not the one you want to click. You can also click Shuffle the Answers. For any question that has multiple answers, this will shuffle them across the test. So if you're shuffling just one individual question, you can lock certain ones so that they stay in place, but this will shuffle questions all the way through the test. So everyone will see different options across the room when they're looking at the multiple choice. You can also set one question at a time. This means that they will only see one question on the screen. They'll have to keep clicking next and next. If you allow backtracking, that means that they can go back to previous questions. Sometimes when I have multiple stimulus questions within a test, sometimes they can get a little bit confused over which questions go with which stimulus. So a lot of times when I have long passages that are paired with questions, I will have only one question at a time so that they can see distinctly which questions go with which passage with which stimulus. Sometimes if I'm creating the same assignment and I don't want to break up when students are allowed to see it, a quicker, easier format is just to require an access code. I know in my class, it's the trivia question of the day. You have to answer the trivia question correctly to get the access code to the daily warm-up. It's just kind of a fun little welcome to class icebreaker that we do every day. And you can type in whatever you want that to be here, and they would have to type in that access code to get into the assignment. You can give them a time limit. You don't have to. This is not necessary, but sometimes if we're training for the ACT, the ACT requires you to go very, very quickly. So I'll give them a time limit that will slowly shrink throughout the semester until we're down to doing a passage at ACT time. Maybe you want them to only have 2 hours to do this thing. I would keep in mind with time limit, if you pause the assignment and want to come back to it later, you can exit the assignment, but that clock stays running. So if you give them 2 hours and you work for the hour and a half of class, they log off, they're going to finish with 30 minutes tomorrow. The timer doesn't stop when you come out of the assignment, it continues running. So 2 hours from the time they start, they will lose access to the test because they have run out of time. So keep that in mind if you're going to assign a time limit, that you cannot go out and come back. The time limit keeps running. You can filter IP addresses if you're more tech savvy than I am. If you know how that works, you can select IP ranges. You can allow students to use a calculator, basic or scientific. The calculator option does pull up in certain types of questions that you create. You can allow that to be an option for them. Clearing selection for multiple choice, they can cross things off if they want to. You can allow them multiple attempts, especially if it's like a formative assignment or if it's just a practice, something like that. You can set which score they keep. You can set how many attempts are they allowed to have. You can require them to wait between, build on their last attempt, do they have to do better? This is really good, especially for like end of the year review. I can let them take a practice test or the study guide. If maybe I've set it up like a study guide, they can try it a couple of different times. This can be really handy. Or if you have a student with accommodations who's allowed to do multiple attempts, things like that, this can be really helpful. Also, you want to restrict the student view. When it's unrestricted like this and a student takes the test, then they can see everything. If you've left any comments on any of the questions, if you've left any feedback, they'll be able to see all of that. They'll be able to see which question answers they selected. They'll be able to see what the correct answer was. There's no limitations on what they can see afterwards. When I'm using this as an assessment tool, I do like to restrict the student view. I will show how many points they were awarded overall and per question. So this was a 2-point question, this was a 5-point question. Overall, they made 7 points. I can see how many points were possible. I usually like them to see the points that they made, see which ones were more impactful, which ones were not. They can see the items and the questions. This one will show what did they pick, what was the answer choice they made, was that answer choice correct or incorrect. I let them click feedback, that way they can see the comments that I make on their answer. I can go through in the speed grader and I can say, oh, I see what you did here. You should have selected B because you were doing this thought process. I can see where you made the mistake, or I maybe can correct their usage of a word if they're writing me a sentence. So I usually click feedback, but I personally do not often click show the correct answer because I allow test corrections in my class. So I don't want them to see what their right answer was. I want them to go back and figure out what the right answer was. So generally when I'm restricting student view, I will leave all of these checked except for the correct answer so that they will see what do they need to go back and fix and know where to do that fixing. You can also click moderate. Currently there's no students enrolled in this test class, but when you see them taking the test, you will see their names, you will see what time they started the test, you will see a timer running for who is still taking it. There's also a couple of modifications that you can add over here to give someone extra time. If it's a student who has accommodations, you can also allow multiple attempts. Sometimes I've had a student accidentally hit submit when they meant to hit next question. I can go back and reopen the test for them so that they can get back into it and continue working. I can give them a second attempt if they want to try If they had major technical issues or if they were just having like a really bad mental health day, I can do that specifically individually within the moderate. I don't have to open a second attempt for the entire class. I can just give a second attempt to one particular student. And then within here, I can also see the speed grader, so I can go in and grade their assignments. This is the teacher view of the quiz. You can see all of these things. If you want to see the student view, you can click preview here on the student page. You'll get the pink banner, test page. You get the pink banner that shows that you're at a student view. And you can see what these question types look like from the student's perspective. So for the sorting, you'll see that they've been shuffled down here. They can drag things into noun section, they can drag things into the verb section, and the distractors will just need to stay below under possible answers. For the essay question, they can type whatever they need to write. They can upload files here. Again, you have the limitations of file types. For fill in the blank, they will just type them in. And remember, unless you've selected case, doesn't matter, they will need to do upper and lowercase will matter if you don't click that selection. This is your formula answer. Notice how the numbers are different than last time. It will give you a new question for each test, or a new problem for each test. You'll need to type in the answer with numbers on your keyboard. For the hotspot, when you click somewhere, it will show a little target. And remember, unless the target is within that polygon that we drew, they will not receive points for that assignment. But the target will stay after you click. You can move it around, but you only get one click. For the matching, it is a drop down, so I can see all of the options and they're shuffled up. I can see all the options as well as the distractors that I entered, so not all of these will be selected because there's only 4 choices and there are 6 options here. But for multiple choice, this is what that looks like for them. Remember, be sure you click select all that apply, because otherwise this will look like a regular multiple choice question for them, so you'll want to select more than one answer. For multiple choice, it will only let you select one. So if you choose a different one, it will change your answer, whereas with multiple answer, it will let you click as many as you want to. For here, this was the number answer, so I'll want to type in my answer manually. And for the ordering question, I can drag things up and down wherever I want them to be. Want them to be in correct order, and remember here we have the labels beginning and end. True, false, that's how this works. And then this is our stimulus question. We've got the stimulus over here, and we've got any attached questions on this side. Once students are finished, they can hit submit here at the bottom or here at the top, submit and return. Return will take them out of the quiz to let them pause and come back later. Submit will completely send you the quiz. They can't re-enter it. They are finished. There's a lot of options. It's extremely customizable, but it's a really, really great tool. You can tailor it to whatever you need in your class. You can add lots of questions. There's lots of good moderation options, some good differentiation stuff in here as well. And like I say, you can assign this to as many or as few students as you want to. Once you've got all of these things, you can save the options in the bank. There's really good feedback options. There's just a whole lot of things that you can do with new quizzes that are really, really helpful in the class.